What is going on, guys? This is Exano, and this is the PSI video tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over everything you need to know to start playing PSI, from shipbuilding to free roam to combat itself, and how to get around the UI. So, what we're going to do is we're going to segment this video into about 6 sections, and so you should be able to click any of the sections you want here, or just continue watching for the full tutorial. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to need to do in PSI is you're going to need to build the ship that you're going to use for the rest of your game. There's a bunch of holes that you can use, but for our video what we're going to do is we're going to use the Pugio because it demonstrates, I think, the game the best and the systems that we're going to be using. The ships are made up of 6 systems, 5 of which are powered. The only system that isn't powered is your pump, and that's responsible for removing flooding and stuff, but we'll get to that a little bit later. The first system that you're responsible for placing is your control system. If this gets blown up and it's not repaired, your UI is hidden and you can't shoot or control power to the other systems, so this is one of your most important systems. Also, if it's not manned, you don't get any evasion rate, so you need to keep it manned pretty much all the time. Your weapon system is responsible for shooting. Basically, if you don't have your weapon system online, or if it's injured in any way and not repaired, you're not going to be able to shoot your weapons, and you're not going to be able to do any damage. So this is the second priority system. And if you man it, you'll fire weapons a little bit quicker, so that's kind of nice. Same deal with the shields. The shields will replace your hull, basically, with energy. And they recharge at a constant rate over time, unless they're unpowered or injured. You also get a small benefit for manning this system, as you do with all other systems. So just experiment with manning different things and seeing what the benefit is to figure out your perfect setup. The ballast is responsible for letting you move up and down in combat, which is very important because certain weapons, they like certain depths. If you ever get lost and you want to know what your weapon depth is, you can go here, and it'll tell you that it likes mid to low depth ranges for the Zama, and all depth ranges for the Laser Mark II, or most. After you placed your ballast, you place your engine. And your engine is responsible for dictating your chance to dodge fire and letting you move through the water. Your med bay is responsible for healing your crew. Your med bay, once it's occupied, will automatically begin healing whoever's on it as long as it's powered. And your pump doesn't have health and it doesn't need power. But your pump is one of the most crucial systems because when it's manned, it can start draining out any tiles on your ship that might have a flood. And we'll go over floods and fires in a little bit. But once you've placed your ship and you've built everything, you're going to move to the boot up screen and then to free roam. So let's move on and cover free roam and what that's like. Once you've booted up your ship, you're going to get a dialogue telling you your mission. For your first mission, you're just supposed to run around and engage any enemies that you see. Movement in free roam is handled by your D-pad down here in the left-hand corner. Alright, you can see any quests or sub-quests that you have here in your objective screen. Your current speed, X is on the left, and Y is on the right, and your current depth. You can also get your parts and your hull integrity at a glance, which can be useful if you need to repair or you want to see how much you can afford at a store or an armory. The free roam can be tracked pretty easily, and your position in it, by looking at the minimap in the sonar here. Enemies are purple and red. Stores are always blue, and armories are always green. And we'll go over stores and armories a little bit later because they're very important systems, but you can get the gist of it. Alright, so let's go over combat a little bit in the UI and get you familiar with that, because I think free roam is probably the most self-explanatory system. So, once you inevitably find yourself in combat, you're going to be looking at this screen. And there's a lot of different things going on here, so it can be kind of overwhelming at first. There's an in-game tutorial that covers the basics of how to move around, but we'll go over it here really quickly. If you want to select a crewman, you can tap any of them, alright? Or you can go up here to their name, and you can manually select it that way. To move a crew, you just select the person you want to move, and select the area on the ship you want him to go to, and he'll automatically start moving over there. If you want to man a ship, if you want to man a system, just select the system that you want to man, and he'll automatically start manning it once he's at that area. And you can check on the bottom here if any of your systems are manned or unmanned. Over here is your shields. This represents how powered your shields are and how charged they are. If your shields are down or unpowered, you'll see them turn red. And when they're recharging, you'll see the recharge indicator here until you finally have 25 hull worth of shield. Over here are your depth controls, and these are responsible for moving your ship up and down, and these are actually dictated by your weapons. So we'll go over that in 1 second once we go through the weapons and how they work. This is your ship status. This is the health of your ship. When it gets really low, it'll turn red and an alarm will sound, and you'll know that you gotta basically get out of there and start repairing. These are your weapons, and you can tap these to select them and then tap on the enemy, which we'll get over to in a minute, in order to fire and start dealing damage and dealing offensive capabilities. Over here is your power system. The left-hand bar represents your total amount of power available to you. The slightly dulled gray bars indicate how much power each system has available to it, and you can just tap a system to apply power to it. It's pretty self-explanatory in that sense. If you lose power to any of your systems, you're going to lose the benefit associated with that system. For instance, engine controls our evasion. So without the engine, we can't evade. And without the medway, we couldn't heal. And if we lose our ballast, we're going to start sinking. All right? So as we're moving down, you can see the laser mark II turn green. And now the down indicator on the Zama is telling us we need to move down further. Eventually, once we get into optimal range, it'll turn green. And this means that our weapon is going to do optimal damage. If the weapon tells us to go up, the opposite is true. We need to start ascending. And it'll tell you which direction you need to go and give you an arrow to tell you, hey, go this way. And get you into optimal range so you can start being the most effective and dealing the most damage that you can. Over here is your parts. This is how much money you have on hand, your amount of torpedoes or your missiles, your chance to dodge, and your morale. All of your crew has a morale rate. The higher the morale is, the better your crew is at everything, from repairing to how fast a weapon it will fire to how fast your shields will repair. So keeping a high morale is very important, and morale goes up when you're successful in a mission, if you destroy an enemy, if you succeed in a rescue operation or anything like that. And morale will decline if you end up screwing something up or if somebody dies or you fail a rescue operation. So that's how morale is handled. If you ever want to turn an part of the UI on or off, you can just select these areas here, and you can show or hide anything. And just like before, if you get lost, there is the info button that'll give you information about certain areas of your ship. The pause button here, if you need to pause the game and go anywhere, and you can also submit a bug report to me, and that'll give me some detailed information and let me know something's going wrong. And if you're on Android, you can just hit the back button and do the same thing. So that's pretty much the UI. So let's move on to combat, and I can show you guys how that works and what to expect from a typical fight. And then we'll move on to fires and floods, and then stores and armories. Inevitably, you will find yourself in combat. In this instance, you will get a dialogue telling you the current situation, and you'll have a couple of options available to you sometimes. In other instances, you might only have one choice that you can make. In our case, we can either assist this Roman palisade or we can deny their request. I'm going to assist them to show you how combat works. We can view our enemy over here on the right-hand side of the screen, and we can see his health underneath the active target. We can see his current shield status, his depth, and his evasion chance. So we have all the information about his ship. If we had certain augments or certain drills, we would be able to see his crew and where they were on the ship and where the systems were. But we don't have any of that technology right now, so we're flying kind of blind. We just have to guess. All of combat is handled on a grid-by-grid system, which I'll show you in a minute. So when combat starts, the first thing you want to do is make sure your crew is in an optimal spot to be. Alright? So all these guys are in good spots. If you need to run, if it's too hairy, you can attempt to flee. And you have to wait a few seconds, but you'll either successfully run away, or you will have to keep facing off with the enemy. So now he's unloading his salvos into us. So let's select a weapon by just tapping it, and we can tap anywhere on the ship to fire. Alright? And we can queue up shots too if we would like to. So I can fire my Zama and then say, hey, shoot here. And then my S-Slam here. And we're going to try and guess where this ship's weapon systems are. It looks like we guessed okay because his weapons are starting to go inside. So we took out his weapon system, we left him pretty defenseless, and we're pretty much free to clean up the mess. And so this is pretty much a best case combat scenario for you. It doesn't really get much better than this. You don't have any offensive stuff to worry about, or floods or fires. But in a lot of instances, you're going to be in a serious situation. So after you finish the combat mission, you'll get another dialogue explaining what has happened. If you secured any scrap, which we did, and we also got some missiles, which is awesome. Fortunately, we didn't rescue anybody, so we don't have any crew or rewards from that ship. And from now, we can move back on into free roam. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over what happens when combat goes wrong. And so I'm going to explain floods and fires and the things that you'll inevitably be dealing with as you fight enemies throughout the game. So we have found ourselves in a bit of a sticky situation. We have multiple systems down. We have our engine is unpowered, our medbay unpowered, our shields are unpowered, and all of these systems need to be repaired. And to make matters worse, a fire has just broken out in our medbay. Now, what's important to recall and remember always about fires is that fires spread really, really fast. The second you see a fire, you need to send somebody on that fire immediately and get the fire taken care of. You can suspend all your other activities, just don't worry about it. Worry about that fire. And the other thing to remember is that your hull has certain breach points that are good spots to station crew in case you can't contain the fire in the time allotted to you. If there's just an enemy too big, you can't run away, it's a boss, something's going on, you can't stop the fire. Alright, and so what we're going to do is we're going to move our crew over to the fire, just like we do to man a system. And hopefully he'll put it out before it spreads, but we'll see what happens. Alright, and in the meantime, we're going to focus all of our firepower on the enemy ship and see if we can't kill it. Alright, and send a couple guys out to repair our shields and our engines. Alright, so that's our plan. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy and have him go repair this fire. He's going to go repair the engines for us, and we're going to start our combat. You can see the status window here telling us that he is repairing. Alright, we took that guy out. Unfortunately, we have a flood to deal with also. So now, let's go put out the medbay fire. Alright, so we took care of the fire. We can repair our medbay. We can repair our engine. But now we have another problem. We have a flood. So this is a little bit worse than a flood. You can see on the warning light we have a hull breach. That means that there's a hole in the ship. Okay, and that's indicated by the pink exclamation point, the bubbles coming out of the ship, and this little repair icon with a health bar. If we send a crewman over to that area, he'll start repairing the hole, and you can see it get repaired here. When that bar is gone, that means that it's just a normal flood. It's now no longer a hole. We don't have to worry about it. So what we can do is now send this guy over to the pump and start pumping out this water and get it out of our ship so it doesn't short circuit any other systems.
Sir?
Now that we've done that, we can move our guy over here and start repairing our shields. And we've successfully contained the flood and the fire. And so that's how you deal with floods and fires inside of PSI. It gets a little bit more hectic inside of combat, but I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out how to deal with those situations. The most important thing is to keep a cool head. Alright, so let's move on to stores and armories, and then we'll wrap up and finish up the tutorial. So what we've done here is we've just destroyed an enemy, and we have this store here. This is an armory, and at an armory we can upgrade all the core components of our ship, and we can upgrade power. If we ever get lost on what an item does, we can click on it and it'll tell us, hey, this is how this works. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to upgrade power in order to supply the systems that we're going to purchase. So I'm going to buy 6 power because I'm going to buy, or 7 power, I'm sorry, because I'm going to buy 2 weapon slots. And I'm going to upgrade everything by 1, except for weapons, because weapons require 2 power per weapon upgrade. So I always like to buy 2 at a time for those. So once I've upgraded everything by 1, I'll go back to the main scene. And you can see now we have extra power available to all of our units that we can click to apply. And you can see our evasion buff go up. And if we had an extra weapon, we could mount it here, which we could purchase at a store and start using it. The available power is indicated on your left, and that's very important because I didn't buy enough power. I'm going to have to sacrifice power to one system in order to power another system. And that's, something that might happen, but you should try and avoid it. So that's basically how armories and power systems work. Let's move on to stores. So in free roam, you will often come across blue blips on your minimap, and the blue blips are indicative of stores. When you hit a store, you're going to get this menu. And stores are very important because stores let you repair your hull up here in the top right hand corner. You can spend everything for a discount, or repair everything for a discount, or you can spend 2 at a time and repair 2. Here's where you can also buy weapons, or you can sell weapons. If you want to know what a weapon does, again, the information button is here for you, so you can figure everything out there. But what's also neat about the store is this store is the only place you can get an augment or a drill. Augments are things that affect your ship. Like improved sensors, for instance, will let me see the enemy's systems. It'll let me see where their shields are and where their weapons are. There's also things like iron plating, which will let my ship take more damage. And there are things like fireproofing and floodproofing. The drill affects my crew. Right now I have a weapons training drill, and the weapons training drill lets my crew fire weapons quicker. But if I wanted to, I could buy fire prep, and that lets my crew extinguish fires very, very rapidly, even more so than now. And these can you can only have one active at a time, and there's many, many, many to go through. So you want to go from store to store until you find one that suits your playstyle. And that's pretty much the gist of stores. That's how stores work. So thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I think that pretty much has you set up on PSI and how this game works and how this game handles. So if you have any questions, if I didn't cover anything in the tutorial, if I went too fast or too slow, leave a comment and let me know. And hopefully your adventures in New Carthage and against the evil Carthaginians will be good, and you will do Rome proud. So thank you guys for watching, and again, let me know if you have any feedback. Take it easy.